record. Okay, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Ruben Holdorf, Brazilian journalist who will be holding a lecture on democracy and journalism, possible links and prospects for the future. So we will have that schedule. Ruben will present lecture, and then we'll have the time for mutual questions. Ruben will ask us something, and we will have the opportunity to ask him too. Okay, Ruben, the floor is yours.
All right. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to participate in this unique moment of exposition of ideas. I thank Dr. Maxim Balakletsky for the invitation. I can tell you that my English is growing. Suddenly it may happen that I don't understand a word or expression. Let's dialogue and learn through practice, which is important and necessary in the current context of internationalization of knowledge. My PowerPoint. Okay.
You already have a compliment from a student. She writes, "Ви чудово говорите українською." She admires that you're Ukrainian, but please stay as close to English as you can. Okay.
My knowledge about the Ukrainian language is only the greetings.
Okay.
My ancestry, 3 generations were born in Odessa, Odessa Oblast.
Oh wow! I've never heard about it.
I will divide this conference into 3 sections. How to manage a newsroom when democracy melts. An overview of the topics covered, the development of the subject itself, and an opening for discussion. I will seek at times to encourage them to reflect by presenting questions to be answered or analyzed at another time. In my time working in the writing of periodicals, when newspapers were still exclusively printed, there were 2 ways to build a journalistic career. First, starting as a reporter, or second, directly in the administrative area of journalism, which we called entry through the back door. In Brazil, novice reporters are called SEALs. In Brazilian Portuguese, foca. Foca is the similar words, the focus of the camera, photograph, or cinematography. Foca is a pejorative term given the intentionality of the meaning. This is the inexperienced who focus on the target but forgets the other information in the image. In the United States, the journalism freshmen are called cubs or wolves, capable of performing lewd actions. In Ukrainian, Novichok, I think.
Novichok as a poison,
Novichok.
but Novichok as a freshman, as a newcomer.
To test the neophytes, the press chiefs placed the newly arrived reports in the general sections or editorial office of the cities, cities sections. Sometimes privileging some of them in the sports section or the police section, considered the most poorly written. Hence, the opportunity for quasi-laboratory experience or almost laboratory experience. With a lot of work, it was possible to reach the politics, economy, or international sections, considered the stars of journalism, also citing opinion, photography, and agribusiness, in this case of Brazil, Argentina, United States, and Ukraine. However, a new member had the opportunity to take off in the profession as a reviewer, recensent, copy desk, or editorial assistant, later reaching the functions of editor or redactor, editor-in-chief, reporting-chief, newsroom secretary, newsroom-in-chief, newsroom director, or editorial director. Reporting-chief, naczelnik zwito, newsroom secretary, secretary redakcji, newsroom-in-chief, головний redactor, and editorial director, director redakcji. Everything depended on the profile built throughout the academy. Maybe a postgraduate degree, another degree, knowledge of languages, self-taught in areas that are little known or mastered, leadership skills and the perception of the functioning of the gears of the power and the journalistic company itself. I don't intend here to teach you something, nor to say that this or that form of journalistic work is more or less correct. My intention is to share knowledge with you, exchange ideas, show another reality as a result of the differentiated cultural context, mainly in America, in Latin America, whose region historically boasts more than 200 years of experience in journalism, both in professional practice, in daily, weekly, fortnightly, monthly, in audiovisual and digital media, and also in the recesses of the academy, in the training of professionals for the market and also for research. First questions. In a newspaper, including digital companies, or even in radio and television stations, two directors stand out despite their different functions: commercial and editorial, or director of newsroom. After all, who is the responsible for the newspaper? The one who takes on problems of any nature? It's the person who needs to safeguard the editorial policy of the communication vehicle, as well as justify to his superiors all apparently controversial attitudes. I'd like to hear you about this question. After all, who is responsible for the newspaper? The commercial director or editorial director?
Is it a question?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Then please repeat it for everyone, because we need to concentrate on the questions more. Okay.
Who is responsible for the newspaper? The director of commercial director, or editorial director?
Okay. Guys, what do you think?
Maybe it depends on functions. From my mind, to my mind, commercial director is responsible for financial, and editorial director is responsible for contact of the newspaper. Who
Yes.
is the leader? I don't know.
Your answer is right. The commercial is financial, and the editorial is journalistic. But when that one of them is the totally responsible of the news or newspaper or television or radio or digital media, who is? What do you about?
So in my opinion, maybe it won't be right, but I think that both the commercial director and the editorial director are responsible for the newspaper, because each director controls the part of newspaper, and they have to work in pairs to have the cool and great newspaper. So if they have any problem, they will solve them together, in my opinion.
Okay. In the most front page of the newspaper and the world, and the east and the west, the responsible is the editorial director, much more than commercial director. Commercial director is responsible only the financial, the advertising, the publicity, but the editorial director is responsible for the content of the journalism and the advertising. The second question. Are the activities of those responsible the same in any journalistic vehicle, or are there differences despite the same job nomenclature? What do you think?
So it's again one more question.
Are the activities of those responsible the same in any journalistic vehicle, or are there differences despite the same job nomenclature?
Guys, the question is on the slide. Please react to it. Перекласти запитання?
Так, будь ласка.
Чи є відповідальність однакова в різних виданнях, навіть в однакових посад? Тобто по-різному посади називаються, як розподіляється відповідальність у різних виданнях між собою? Тобто, грубо кажучи, там головний, наприклад, на телеканалі і в газеті одна і та ж людина буде однаково називається та, яка несе основну відповідальність. Тобто всюди буде директор там чи журналіст, чи ні? От таке запитання. Ви можете дати українською, дати відповідь. Рубен попробує зрозуміти або запропонувати відповідь письмову або усну. Okay? Are the activities of those responsible the same in any journalistic vehicle? Тобто люди, які приймають рішення, беруть на себе відповідальність. Чи є дії їхні однакові, чи є їхні функції однакові? Okay, Maria.
I think that they are not the same because it may depends on amount people in редакції.
Newsroom.
Newsroom, thank you. Because if it is a small newsroom, many functions can be
Що допомогти?
done by one people, or if it is a huge newsroom, it may be вузька спеціалізація. Максим Анатолійович, допоможіть.
A person can be specialized, спеціалізація. Can specialize on a narrow scale, on a narrow set of functions.
Yes.
Все це можете сказати. Okay, Ruben, what's your reaction?
Okay.
Are you satisfied with
journalists work in many areas of life. And in the simplest of terms, we define journalists as those who present that information as news to the audience of newspapers, magazines, radio, or television stations, or via the internet, digital media. Beyond this rather casual understanding of their role in society, journalists serve the function of reliable presenters of truth. It is
Ruben, excuse me. There is an answer in the chat. Vladislav writes, I think that to a greater extent, it will depend on the purpose of the media and its positioning in the media market.
Yes, it's depend it's change in the news to news. Now I intend to answer this question. It is within this framework that their main obligations reside. The journalist's duty is to provide meaningful and accurate information to a target audience that would otherwise find it difficult to objectively assess a given situation. Within the different media that they learn to utilize, there are specialist tasks for journalists. In large organizations, the journalist may specialize in only one task. In small organizations, each journalist may have to do many different tasks. Here are some of the jobs journalists do. Reporter, gator. Reporters, gators, information, and present it in a written or spoken form in news, stories, features articles, straight news, or documentaries. Reporters may work on the staff of news organizations, but may also work freelance, writing stories for whoever pays them. General reporters cover all sorts of news stories, but some journalists specialize in certain areas, such as reporting sports, politics, or agriculture. Another nomenclature is newspaperman, reporter, or newspaperman. The next function, sub-editors, redactor, take the stories written by reporters and put them into a form which suits the special needs or their particular newspaper, magazine, bulletin, or web page. Sub-editors don't usually gather information themselves. Their job is to concentrate on how the story can best be presented to their audience. They are often called subs. The person in charge of them is called the chief sub-editor, usually shortened to chief sub. The third function, photojournalist, use photographs to tell the news. They either cover events with a reporter taking photographs to illustrate the writing story, or attend news events on their own, presenting both the pictures and story or caption, and produce the legends, the text. No, don't only image, but the text also. The editor. Editors usually make the final decision about what is included in the newspaper, magazine, or news bulletins. They are responsible for all the content and all the journalists. Editors may have deputies and assistants to help them. The news editor is in charge. This nomenclature is based in USA and Western Europe. And Latin America is different. The news editor is in charge of the news journalist. In small organizations, the news editor may make all the decisions about what stories to cover and who will do the work. In larger organizations, the news editor may have a deputy, often called the chief of staff, whose special job is to assign reporters to the stories selected. Feature writing. or feature writers, Hudojny Lesmenik, work for newspapers and magazines, writing longer stories, which usually give background to the news. In small organizations, the reporters themselves will write feature articles. The person in charge of feature is usually called the features editor. Larger radio or television stations may have specialist staff producing current affairs programs, the broadcasting equivalent of the feature article. The person in charge of producing a particular current affairs program is usually called the producer, and the person in charge of all the programs in that series is called the executive producer, or EP. Specialist writers. Fachivets Lesmenik may be employed to produce personal commentary columns or reviews of things such as books, films, art, or performance. They are usually selected for their knowledge about certain subjects of their ability to write well. Again, small organizations may use general reporters for some or all of these tasks. This career offers many opportunities, as there are many different jobs which can be done by journalists. The Latin America chart is different. I still add reporting chief, responsible for reporters, indication of source, development of guidelines. Diagrammer or graphic planner, responsible for press design, web design. Right? Reviewer, responsible for textual correction. In the USA, would be the copy desk, the one who rewrites the text. Newsroom secretary, responsible for deadlines, compliance with editorial policies, front page edition. Each communication vehicle has its own flowchart. Change and trends. As a result, the digital media event, traditional print, radio, and television media have adjusted and amalgamated to the web context. In the last decade, the nomenclature of positions has changed. Thus, a newsroom-in-chief can become a content manager. A newsroom director can assimilate to the director of new projects. These two examples, the newsroom-in-chief change and become to content manager. Newsroom director change, and now is possible to know the director of new projects. These nomenclatures vary by media, regions, and especially countries. But none of these changes the essence of the managerial work of the leadership or journalistic supervision. If previously a newsroom director not only needed to have a communicational worldview, including knowledge of several areas. Administratively, it was necessary to master the basic rules of human resource, financial, or accounting mathematics to manage the use of paper, ink, and other equipment used by the team of the newsroom, include the transport of the newspaper and their delivery. I will repeat. It's necessary to know about the human resources, financial, and accounting mathematics to manage the use of newspaper, ink, and other equipments. Thus, managing a newsroom means mastering the native language, having leadership skills to share tasks and knowledge, protecting the company's editorial policy, defending the right to freedom of expression and conscience, meeting the deadlines, following trends and innovating. Aided to that, the knowledge of other languages, depending on the region of the world, basically English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and German languages. The worldview must open the manager's mind to understand cultural, ethnic, religious, linguistic, philosophical, political, economic differences. This doesn't mean denying basic values to society, such as the preservation of the traditional family, honesty, transparency. If you start your career in the administrative or purely news gathering field, it will take you a few years to reach the highest posts in news organizations. However, I believe that this can be trained in the academy itself, facilitating the anticipation of this professional opportunity in the newsroom's organizational chart. I start in the journalism by administrative area. I was a report, but my main function also was also in administrative area. I was reviewer-in-chief, digital editor, secretary, newsroom assistant, and editorial director, director of journalism in radio, in digital media, in news, in newspaper. But I know to do the journalism function. I know all the structure of the journalism, administrative and editorial. I intend to present you the suggestion of projects to boost the course of journalism in Karzin University, not necessarily in that order. Some projects may be developed in parallel at the same time. First, organize a multimedia newsroom for professional, practical, and entrepreneurship, digital news, web radio, web TV, sources, health and education, literature, history, tourism, economy, politics, agribusiness, new technologies. This is all possibilities. Second, business incubator to new entrepreneurs, digital news, photo and images file, news agency, communication consultant. Why is it important? For providing to students new perspectives of their own business, for remaining in the country, contributing to the development of society, strengthening their substructure. Third, establish and keep in touch with other Ukrainian universities to strengthen partnerships, to enlarge the worldview, to know new cultures, and open new opportunities. Fourth, increase the multimedia platform with TV and radio. This is the future. All the media will unite together more and more. The students need to know and dominate all the tools of the news media. Fifth, install the Journalism Week Congress with speakers, university lectures, debates, round tables, workshop. It's needed to build relationships for the purpose of, in order to have a quality network. This is an opportunity to meet professionals, to reason, to defend ideas, to respect the arguments of others. Sixth, promote events, conference, colloque, symposium, practical, journeys, boot camp, exhibitions of photo, documentary, reports, researchers, games. This is the moment to present scientific works and to share in the form of articles, monographs, papers, personal presentations, panels, images, photos, videos, to participate in the organization of events. Seventh, promote the exchange of students and professors. It decreases the distance between Karzin University and other universities, faculties, higher education institutes, to share academic experience of the different realities. 8, launch a magazine online about media criticism to monitor the press actions, criticizing, defending, fighting for press liberty, improving democracy, and gradually improving logical thinking. 9th, participate in national and international conference of journalism. Get out of your comfort zone and learn about other productions and research. 10th, launch a scientific journal. Improve the scientific production of the campus and encourage the students to research. 11th, visits to mass media and the newsroom in order to know the different way to manage the newsroom and different media, to know the workplace, your professional and the ways of acting. 12, establish a news agency to serve the Karazin University and other higher education institutions by newsletters. Strengthen ties between courses of journalism, contributing to more effective communication. 13th, implement the journalism management program. Monitored and guided by professors in order to discover and encourage the emergence and the training of new leaders. The democracy is shaken. The democracy is shaking. Melting like ice cream. A tripod supports it, or at least it should include the differentiated training by the academy, ideologization, and philosophical and political polarization. The even now non-model of journalism management, of newsroom management, seems to be out of date, given the visible breakdown of democracy. How does democracy end? It's necessary to demolish the institutions that support it. What is the institutions? Education, justice, and journalism. Education. When education is exchanged for party political ideology, for unbridled profit, or simply postponed, it becomes irrelevant and future generations are condemned to ignorance, misery, failure, and subservience to tyrannical powers. Justice. When honest public safety, individual and collective rights are exchanged for the selfish desires of corrupt judges, prosecutors, and lawyers, the dictatorship of the judiciary is installed. The Republic of Judges, in which values are inverted. Journalism. When the credibility of the press is destroyed, or it implodes itself, allying itself with the tyrannical state and the melting down of the academy, any possibility of dialogue and the development of critical and free thinking is extinguished. The harmful influence of Cuba has led Venezuela, Nicaragua, Bolivia, and Argentina to social chaos. In the sequence, Mexico, Costa Rica, Dominican Republic, Panama, Colombia, Ecuador, Chile, and Peru on the edge of the precipice. 6 days from now, the fate of Brazil will also be decided in the second round of elections, federal elections for the president and state elections for the government states. The Latin America press ignored the risks and the historic tragedies of Soviet communism, allying itself with the Marxist and the unscrupulous populist rulers. According to the Committee to Protect Journalists, at least 28 journalists were killed due to their work in 2021. Mexico appears in the top of the list of countries with the most media worker deaths.
One more. Can you specify the amount of deaths? How many?
28. And Mexico 12. 12. Newspapers, magazines, websites, channels, and radio stations that denounce the crimes of leftist parties in Brazil are immediately censored by the Supreme Court. With this, we are able to understand how the United States is also undergoing profound social-political changes and, by extension, in journalistic practice. With rare exceptions, the American continent's press melts, and this can contaminate other continents. It's necessary to understand and distrust the ways in which journalistic practice are treated, always with a bias towards the struggle for democracy and individual and collective freedoms. I finish this lecture with the speak of the former publisher of KV Post, Adnan Kiven. Without independent journalism, you cannot get democracy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruben. Now it's time to pose questions. Can the students start, and then you will pose questions to us, okay?
Okay.
Guys, now it's your chance. There is a question in the chat box. The second round of presidential elections in Brazil is scheduled for October 30. Who would you prefer, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva or Jair Messias to Bolsonaro?
None. None.
None of them.
None. The last bet. The last bet is Jair Bolsonaro. Jair Bolsonaro. The press is not censored, but if Lula will win the elections, is possible to censorship of the journalism. Lula is communist.
So you consider Jair Bolsonaro like a lesser evil?
Jair Bolsonaro is the left and right. Is similar of the Orban in Hungary.
Oh,
Is friend of Orban. And unfortunately is friend of Putin.
oh.
Because the interests of the agribusiness is the problem. But your economic politics and the social politics is good. It saved the Brazil throughout the pandemic and the economic crisis. But the Lula is the most corrupt case of the world in the world. In the history of the history in the world. No corrupt of the few money. It's the $200 billion. It's much more than the economy in 1 year in Ukraine. Only for one person. But the Brazil is divided in two regions. Is northeast is the Lula, and south Brazil and center Brazil is Bolsonaro. And my region is Bolsonaro. But I, as journalist, I independent. It's important to journalists. Journalists cannot be the preference of party. As citizen people, I have my preference, but not as journalist. As journalist, I am independent.
Okay, thank you. More questions, guys? Students, you may pose questions.
Yes, I have a question. Professor Ruden, you have said that the editorial director is the main member of newsroom. You have worked as editorial director of news agency. What was the hardest thing in your job?
Okay, I worked in 28 years ago. I worked in the great group of communication in my state in South Brazil. I started as reviewer after reviewer-in-chief, and parallel report, and assistant of sports section, mainly in the Olympic Games in 1996, Atlanta, USA, and World Cup of Soccer in France in 1998, and after I became a digital editor. Digital editor. I was the first digital editor in South Brazil. In 1997. After in 2000, I accept the new job in São Paulo state, and near my state. In São Paulo state. São Paulo state is the most rich state of Brazil. Is similar of California in USA. São Paulo state, São Paulo state, São Paulo state. I created the news agency and the Adventist University. Not just for the laboratory to students, but the news in the market, and the real news.
Was it run by students? Professor Ruben, was it run by students? This news agency, was it run by students whom you hired as journalists for the agency? The students of the Adventist University. I had been 60 students. 60, yeah.
60 students. Yes, 60 students working the newsroom. Newspaper, digital media, and from 2007, radio and TV. And I organized the policy of the newsroom and the human resources in the newsroom and control of the financial of the newsroom, and the political advertising and the newsroom. And from 2009, I assumed the condition of the director of journalism of the radio FM, University Radio. University Radio.
Mhm.
Or in Brazil is cultural radio. Is different the function of the government is not possible to present the commercial.
Okay.
Only content.
Mhm.
Only content. No, it's not possible to religious content or political content. Political only as the inform or no discussion of the party. Only in information, cultural information, history information,
Okay.
and music.
Mhm.
And now I waiting the new destiny after go out to Ukraine.
How long have you spent in Ukraine?
Uh,
How much time?
I left Ukraine in February 17.
Mhm.
I lived in Ukraine from June 3rd, 2021 to February 17 this year.
Okay, I see. I see. One more question from a student. What do you think about the behavior of the media around the world regarding the situation we all find ourselves in? This war affects and will have consequences not only for Ukraine and Russia, but for the entire world community. So this topic should be discussed everywhere. How do you assess the work of the media in your country and in the world as a whole? Is this conflict and its aftermath getting too much or too little attention? What should be emphasized? So your commentary on the coverage of the war against Ukraine.
The war of the Ukraine, the invasion, the Russian invasion, is affected the Brazil.
In what way?
Mainly the agribusiness, because Brazil depends the chemical products from Russia, and the refine of the oil. Brazil produce oil, but the refine is fuel. Is depend from Russia. But the diplomatic political diplomatic of Brazil is neutrally. I don't agree. I prefer to support the Ukraine.
So what do you what do you disagree with? So do media is world media
Media is
doing good or bad job in covering the war against Ukraine?
Media was the most media, the great media, mainly in São Paulo, Rio de Janeiro, and the capital Brasilia, was have preference from Russia. But the group Jovem Pan is the young Pan-American radio, Pan-American radio and Pan-American TV and digital media in São Paulo is neutrally. But in my city born in South Brazil, Curitiba, is the city with there are the most descendant of Ukrainian in Latin America. Is the most news of Brazil is in Curitiba. Is the Gazeta do Povo. Gazeta do Povo, Gazeta of the People, is only Ukrainian. Is support to Ukraine. Is critical to Russia. I don't agree with the position of Brazil.
Dr. Ruben, I believe it's time for you to pose the questions to the students. What do you want to ask him? Us.
Okay. What do you think about the suggestion for the stimulate the news leaders in the newsroom? For the
how to stimulate the leaders in newsroom?
Yes. What do you think the suggestion that I present you? Launch the news agents and the political of news managing leaders in the newsroom.
Okay. Can I maybe sometimes reorient your question? Is it
okay?
Is it possible? It's the question not for it's not the question back to Professor Ruben, but for everyone.
Okay. I present suggestion of projects to boost the course of journalism, to develop in parallel at the and the academy activities, the practical, organize a multimedia newsroom, business incubator, establish and keep in touch with other Ukrainian universities, increase the multimedia platform, TV, radio, install the Journalism Week Congress, promote events, promote the exchange of students and professors, launch magazine online about media criticism, participate in national international conference, launch a scientific journal, visit to mass media newsroom, establish a news agency, implement the journalism management program, guided by professors, and encourage and training the new leaders. And what about what do you think about these projects, these ideas?
Your project indeed is great and very interesting opportunities for students. But as Ukrainian student, I can say that many students is afraid of taking part in projects because they are not confident in their language level and they are afraid to communicate with other people, not because they don't want, because they afraid that they are not managed to do this.
Okay.
Won't be able. Okay, one more.
But your project really great.
I will translate it maybe for people. Друзі, тут от таке запитання, власне, що ви думаєте з приводу цих ідей? Тобто, власне, тут можна по-різному спрямувати. І ті ідеї професора Рубена стосовно актуалізації і поліпшення, так, журналістської освіти і так далі. От як ви, мене найбільше, що мене цікавить тут, це цей досвід з розкруткою і виведенням на серйозний рівень національний видання, в якому він працевлаштовував студентів. От як ви думаєте, чому студентські медіа фактично не показують такої динаміки? От що заважає? Як ви думаєте, в Україні? От ми заявили студентське радіо. Воно таке сиділо собі спокійно, ми не чуємо ні про яку революцію. Тепер його переорієнтовують на фронтову журналістику, вона вже більше не називається студентським. От, будь ласка, англійська, українська, давайте, щоб вже наприкінці ми тут все-таки вийшли на якийсь діалог.
Я вважаю, що просто журналістському молодіжному руху мало приділено уваги в плані довіри та авторитетності з боку самих слухачів, глядачів. Тобто люди не так поважливо ставляться до ЗМІ молодіжних, оскільки нагадаю, що через через меншу авторитетність та менший досвід це не так важливо і не так значуще, як вже великі.
Professor Robert, I believe that Vladislav is trying to say that maybe people just don't try young journalists. They don't consider them to be ready to produce, so to say, serious content, to be perceived as full-scale journalists, so to say. Okay? Okay? Будь ласка, друзі, іще думки. От якби зараз, наприклад, ви би училися під орудою професора Рубена в Бразилії, і він би запропонував вам такий проєкт, ви би пішли зараз без відриву від виробництва, від навчання, в ньому тяжко вкалувати. Ви ж можете собі уявити, скільки це роботи для того, щоб таке видання підтримати? Будь ласка, висловіться, хто би пішов? От зараз прямо почав би працювати паралельно з навчанням.
This last
Question, yeah?
opinion about the immaturity is tough, but if I don't consider to students the opportunity, when is it possible? In the newsroom, in the job, the local, is the university. University is the laboratory. To right, to wrong is the opportunity to develop the career. I always get to get the opportunity for my students. And now, example, the Adventist publishing house in Brazil has four leaders, and the newsroom-in-chief and 3 editors. The 3 editors was my students. And the director of the Hope channel in Brazil was my student. And all the Brazil and foreign other countries are many students, many former students today, journalists or leaders or same professor in universities. And Salzburg University, Austria, the professor of doctorate in the communication doctorate, former students, 2 students, Spain and London and Portugal.
We are already impressed. Please don't continue. Okay. When we have one more minute left, can you share your main attitude, your main approach? How do you make people so successful in different areas? What do you do to them? What do you do with them to make them so successful in media?
First, I discover in each student's different issues, aspects, kinds, talents. One student write very well. Another students has the good arguments. The other students has the capacity to leadership. Is important to responsible to accept, to admit, to assume responsible. One day, each 2 weeks, I determined 2 students assume the newsroom. I go to the shop and the students stay with your colleague in the newsroom and decide resolve and solution the problems that appear in the newsroom. It's important to trust the students, to discover new leadership.
We're impressed with your attitude. Thank you so much, Professor Ruben. I believe students get many information and food for thought from your lecture. So thank you so much, and many more achievements to you, more success.
Thank you.
Yeah. We wish you new ideas, new breakthroughs, and in Brazil as a society and state as a whole.
I continue to pray for you and Ukraine and President Zelensky to stop the war. To stop.
Have you read all the students' commentaries? Okay. I would go to work in your media if the work is remote and paid. I think that students are afraid of greater responsibility. Maybe they are unsure of their abilities. Lack of practice and knowledge of foreign languages also plays a role here. I must say that you look like a lot like British actor Tim Roth. Thank you very much for the lecture. It was a pleasure to listen to you and talk to you. Thanks for support.
Thank you for you, and success, and God bless you.
Thank you. Thank you.
До побачення.
До побачення.
Дякую.
До побачення.
До побачення.
Бачення.